We are live.
Welcome to the Golf Podcast Live. I'm your host, Rafael Kalamat. I'm in Mississauga, Ontario, Canada, which is in the GTA at our studio space, which is Mindshare Workspace, alongside Michael Bleackley, who's in Vancouver at the ECS Pod Studio at his agency. We've got a great show this week. Not only is he a golfer, not only is he an instructor, but he is one of the most renowned photographers in the golf biz today. With us today is photographer Evan Schiller. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. This is great. Excited.
Absolutely, Evan. Appreciate you joining us and look forward to chatting with you today.
Well, one of the first things we always start with, Evan, is how you got started in golf. We like to take our listeners and our viewers back to how everything got started. So how did you get involved in golf, and how did that lead you to photography?
Wow. So my father played a bit of golf, and it was probably because of him that I got into it. He never did it professionally, but I'd say, maybe he was a 9 or 10 handicap at best. And he would take me to the driving range, and he tells this story that we went up somewhere in upstate New York in the mountains, and we were at this clinic one day, and this pro was out there hitting balls, and I don't know how old I was, maybe 3 or something. And this is people all gathered around him, and he'd hit the ball, and out of the audience would be this little voice go, whack, whack, every time he would hit it. My father would go, shh, Evan, shh.
Right.
So that was probably my first introduction to golf. He would take me to the range, would take me to the course. Sometimes we went on some golf trips, and that's how I got started. And then, I started playing on my own. I played in high school. Went out for the high school team. Then I went to college, played college golf, turned pro, played mini tours. I even qualified for some tour events. I played over in Europe a little bit. I went to South Africa. I'm looking at your bag there, international.
Yeah.
Played the South African tour a couple of years.
Right.
And I was, God, how did this lead into photography? My mother had bought me a camera because she was a pretty good photographer, not professionally. My father was, a semi-professional, movie maker. He was, I wouldn't even say semi-professional. It was just for fun. But he had a bunch of people he worked with. And my mother bought me a camera. I would start taking pictures on our trips to wherever we'd go. And I remember I was out in California in the California desert, played in the California Open, which was in August. It was at the Dinah Shore course at Mission Hills and the mountain course at La Quinta Resort.
I played it.
Yes. And it was the hottest weather I had ever been in. I remember driving down Highway 111. There was a little sign that says 120 degrees. And I said, what the, where are we?
Yeah.
So we played a tournament. After the tournament was finished, somebody said, there's a new course that just opened up down the street. You guys should go play it. And it happened to be the stadium course at PGA West. It just had opened. Yeah. There was nothing out there. Hank Haney, I think, was teaching out there. I mean, the pro shop was in a trailer.
Was that in the mid 80s, you'd say?
Yeah, it was like 86, 87.
And before the housing developments were.
Oh my God, there was models. There was models out there. That was it.
Yeah.
But nothing. It was a golf course in sand.
Yeah.
And the models. And that was it. Maybe there was a few of the original landmark guys' houses that were built right across the lake on the 18th hole.
Yeah.
So we played. I remember coming to the 9th hole and looking down at this scene. The hole goes right towards the mountains. So you had this, it's not even a dog, it wasn't really a dog leg, but it kind of wrapped itself around the water, and there was a sand trap that ran, and then there was this lake, and the water was dead still, and there was a perfect reflection of the mountain in the lake. the hole is actually called the reflection. And
Mhm.
I didn't have cell phones then, and I thought, wow, I wish I had a camera, because this
Right.
is amazing. So I went home, got a camera, started taking it with me, and started taking pictures for kicks, hanging them on my wall, giving them to my friend. Then, fast forward a few years later, I was working as an assistant professional at Westchester Country Club, and one of my buddies said, we should put these up in the shop and sell them. And I thought, well, that was a joke.
Yeah.
Who's going to buy these? And the Buick Classic was there, so we put them up during the tournament, and they started selling.
Yeah.
Great.
And that was a start. Then I did it at a couple other clubs, and one thing led to another, and
Yeah.
here we are.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
I noticed in your younger years, you were a teammate of Woody Austin. Is that correct? You're pretty tight with Woody. What was that like?
I don't know how tight I was, but we were on the same team at University of Miami, in Florida.
Yeah.
Actually, Nathaniel Crosby was on that team as well.
Yeah.
Woody, we had a collection of characters. So yeah. Woody's the only one who went on to, make it on the tour. I know a few of them tried. I mean, I think Nathaniel played in Europe for a year.
Very cool. How many clubs did Woody toss around in his collegiate years? Was he a little wilder before he got on tour? Or?
He would, when we play, we always wear shorts, and he would miss a putt, and he would hit his thigh so hard with his hand, it sounded like a gunshot. I mean, he would just slap his thigh.
Yeah.
In fact, it was, I think it was a couple years later, I was playing in this mini tour event with Nolan Henke, who went to Florida State. He played on the tour. Nolan was one of the better college players at the time. We were playing somewhere, and we were sitting down to lunch afterwards, and he asked me, he goes, "You went to Miami? Yeah. You Miami, didn't you?" He says, "Yeah." He was a little younger than I was, and he goes, "You were there with Woody?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, he starts laughing. So he tells the story of Woody playing the NCAAs one year he was playing with Woody, and Woody misses a putt. He was playing really well, Woody, and he misses a putt like on the 17th or 18th hole. And he stood there, and you could see him just start to bubble up. He was like steaming, so hot, and no one's looking at him, just wondering what he's going to do. And Woody would wear glasses, and he takes his fist and he hits himself in the head, like bam. And he said he hit himself so hard. This is what he just hit himself so hard his knees buckled. I thought he was going down.
You know what, Evan? Everybody knows the famous or seen the famous shot of him bending his putter over his head, or falling into the water on 15 at the President's Cup and becoming Aquaman, right? So he's got his moments, certainly. So
I saw him bend a few putters.
But you've played a little bit of golf yourself, some qualifiers. It was a different world back then. Money wasn't as large. A lot of characters on the game, a lot of unique swings, people getting it around the course. How many events did you actually try to qualify, or did you play on the PGA Tour in the 80s?
I tried to qualify for a bunch. I mean, I guess I did pretty well in those. It was a Monday qualifier, where they had, 100, 120 guys would tee it up, and then they'd have 4 spots. Although I don't even know if they have those anymore.
They do on a lot of events. They got pre-qualifiers though, so it takes a couple of stages before you can get to that spot.
Yeah, it was just. I mean, back then it was, you pay $100. And you'd show up, and there was anywhere between 80 and 150 guys, and they had 4 spots. And I probably made it qualified, I want to say 7 or 8 of those.
Wow, great! That's pretty good.
That's a big accomplishment. I mean, it is.
Yeah, it was. I was just. There was a guy named Brian Tennyson, and he's the only one I know of who got in more than I did, because he would like every week getting in. But I just knew that, okay, what the heck? You got to shoot either, you got to shoot 67 or less, or 68, depending on the course, 67 or less. So we got nothing. I mean, to me, I had nothing to lose.
Right. And those days were
you know,
different. You probably had to hold a job. You were an instructor as well. There wasn't any way of just devoting, 40 to 50 hours a week on golf.
Yeah.
On,
I did.
tuning up your game.
Yeah, I did. That's what I was doing. I was just playing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was lucky
Fantastic.
to have, I was lucky to have sponsors, and that's what I was doing. I was playing mini tours, and I played
amazing
TPA tour. Yeah. But yeah, there was, but in those qualifiers, it was probably, if there was 100 guys, there was probably only, my guess was 25 who had a chance.
Yeah.
So basically had to beat 25 guys, because a lot of guys, I played with guys who would shoot 85, and you'd say, you're supposed to have a 2 handicap, I think, but as look at them like,
right.
Well, I know people who have fudged their caps to get into qualifiers, but when you enter as a 5 cap, in reality, you're not gonna qualify.
No. And so, yeah, those were, they were fun. You drive around to them, and it's like one day, and just you let it fly.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds fun. Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. I guess that your love for photography and playing all these different courses, because we've all had those moments, and we're lucky enough to have cell phones now where you could just, take that pic when you see, a great moment, when the sun's coming down, the light's just right, or the shadows are falling over onto the fairway, or you got the waves crashing in on a golf course. So I could really understand where you're coming from. And when did that come into play, where you actually made the big career change in photography? Because your work is pretty well known right now. I know most people in the golfing community know who Evan Schiller is for photography.
Yeah. I don't know if there was any one that one moment I told you at PGA West, that was a defining moment. But as far as growing the business, it happened gradually.
Mm-hmm.
I was working in the clubs, and then I was actually doing some teaching with, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Fred Shoemaker and Extraordinary Golf, the School for Extraordinary Golf. So I worked a number of years with Fred. And I was, some of that, and photography, and, all along the photography business just gradually grew. Mm-hmm. And it just started transitioning away from playing and teaching or coaching to the photography. It was a gradual thing.
Is there any courses that stand out for photography that you have favorites, and comparatively, do you have favorites that you like to play?
Yeah. Bandon Dunes is always a wonderful trip.
Yeah.
It's just, to me, it's the premier golf, destination in the world. I'm not talking about going to a country or something like that. I'm talking about like one spot, because it's pretty tough to top what they have there.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't been yet, but I've seen a lot of pictures, heard a lot of amazing stories. So it's near the top of the bucket list, and will happen soon.
Yeah, they have 5, essentially top 100 golf courses, plus one of the best par 3 courses in the world. Pebble's always beautiful. I'm actually going down next week to a place I really love going to, and that's Union League National in South Jersey. The Dana Fry and Jason Straka have basically taken what used to be called sand barrens.
Yeah.
I don't know if South Jersey is pretty flat, like Florida flat. And they just took this place. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Calusa Pines in Florida, but they created Calusa Pines on steroids north. They just moved a bunch of dirt and created all these ridges, and it's really amazing. In fact, I sent you guys a photo, one of the photos I sent.
Oh, good.
There. I always just love going there, because I just think it's amazing what they did there. I know some people may not like it because they say, oh, it's artificial, they move so much dirt, but it's very cool. When it grows in and over the next 5 to 10 years, you're not even going to be able to tell. It's going to seem like it was just here like this.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, if you're just joining us, we're talking to Evan Schiller, a world-renowned golf photographer. You can take a look at his work on evanschillerphotography.com. Evan, I got a question for you. We're both Canadian, and there's so much great golf out here. We've got over 2,200 golf courses in Canada. Per capita, outside of Japan, we used to be the most populated golf course country in the world.
Wow.
So what do you think of Canadian golf courses? Do you have any favorites here? I know you've done some photography for Cabot.
Yep. Yeah.
So tell us about your experience with Canadian golf courses and some favorites out here.
Well, I've been up to the Maritimes a number of times. To Cabot, but I've also been to Prince Edward Island. It's just a beautiful part of the world.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I drove up to Cabot one time. I've been up there 3 times, I think, and I've flown once and drove the other 2. And when I went up there, it was, I think, a late September, and the leaves were turning. It was beautiful. I mean, that's become one of the premier golf destinations in the world.
Yeah.
I think they just got whacked by that hurricane.
They did.
Yeah. My first thought when I was on Cabot Links, the first course there, I said to my wife, I said, if somebody could drop you here out of a plane and ask you where you were, and you wouldn't know that you were in the Maritimes of Canada. I mean,
right.
You could be in Scotland. It had that kind of feel to it. Cabot Cliffs is a whole nother story. I mean, the setting is just fabulous. I think it's one of Coore and Crenshaw's better courses, best course. I mean, they haven't done any bad ones, but it's a great one. And then, out west, Grey Wolf.
I played it.
Yeah, that's just like, so as far as scenery, it's off the charts. I mean,
you've been out to Banff Springs as well?
Yeah, I mean, you guys have 3 of the most spectacular par 3s in the world in Canada, and that's the 16th at Cabot Cliffs. I think it's the 6th at Grey Wolf, and the 4th at Banff. 4th, 13th. I know they flipped it once, but they might have flipped it. But it's the 4th at Banff.
The 4th.
3 of the most.
And the 10th hole.
Yeah. They're 3 of the most spectacular par 3s in the world.
Yeah, I played Grey Wolf last year, and I didn't score well, but what a beautiful property that was. I fully enjoyed it.
Yeah, there aren't many golf courses we can go to when you don't see really a road or a house, or you don't see much.
Yeah. We can appreciate that as golfers. There are beautiful courses around housing developments, but it's nice just to be out there in nature and appreciate that, and not be distracted by construction. What do you have coming up? You said you have a couple trips coming up. What courses are you shooting? And
well, I've got something every week from now until the middle of November.
Yeah.
So this week, actually tomorrow, I'm going out to Long Island to shoot Southward Ho. It's on the south shore of Long Island. And next week, heading down to Union League National.
Mm-hmm.
The week after, I'm actually going to Florida to shoot Bonita Bay. They just did a renovation, and they're going to reopen actually a few days after I'm there, and I'm hoping that hurricane doesn't just completely destroy the place. Yeah. It's going to hit right near there.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I know. The week after that, I go to Mississippi to Mossy Oak. It's a Gil Hanse course. And then from there out to California, it's a couple courses. Well, one is the Preserve in Carmel.
Yeah.
And maybe Quail Lodge. Then home for a few days, and back out to Texas to PGA Frisco. It's the new PGA headquarters course. I mean, at 36 holes, they got an Omni hotel. They got the PGA moved their headquarters out there. 36 holes. I got a par 3 course, amazing practice facilities. And then from there back to Florida, to Boca, to Broken Sound.
Jeez, you're traveling more than a tour player.
Yeah, I know.
What's it look like when you go to a course and you're planning your shots? Because to get art like this, you're not just showing up with a camera and winging it. So,
Right.
what are you doing to prepare yourself and plan your shots? And how long do you typically spend at a golf course to get a satisfied photography?
You know what? I'm really glad you asked that question, because I was just speaking with my wife the other day, and we're putting together our next blog post. And I wanted it to be about that.
Yeah.
You know, what goes into it, because you just don't show up and take pictures. I know some people think that I just go around, you know, I go travel around taking pictures. And I mean, yes, but no, because all the courses I shoot, I've been hired to shoot by the, you know, the course, and then they use them for their, you know, marketing, social media, print, like that. So generally it starts, you know, with the course contacting me and making a request, and then we have some back and forth to find out what they want. And then I send them a contract. But, you know, prior to my arriving, I always ask them, you know, have you consulted with the superintendent, you know, about this? Because, you know, they have stuff, you know, because sometimes they don't always tell. He's like, they're like the last person to know. Sometimes, not all the time.
Yeah.
You know, because they may have some kind of maintenance going on.
Yeah, they might be aerating the greens, or it's
aerating or top dressing, or, you know, they're doing some bunker work, you know, something. I said, you met best, you know, to communicate with them and find out what they think is the best time.
Smart.
And because they, first of all, they like to know, and second of all, they want to, many of them want to get the course ready. But after, you know, the dates are set and the contract is signed, the most important person at that point is the superintendent. Because I have to coordinate with him on a daily basis. You know, I just spoke to 2 of them this morning. Just trying to, you know, this shoot I have this week, they, you know, I was supposed to do it today, but they had an outing that was rescheduled, so they got the course for the whole day. So we said, let's do it tomorrow. You know, but they have a women's invitational. So now they have a shotgun at 8 o'clock on Tuesday and Wednesday morning. So now we have to, okay, how do we, you know, maneuver around that? Because he's got to mow, you know, he's got to mow the course. I got to shoot, and I can't just go out there and hope that, you know, well, his guys are going to be all over the place and there's dew. And so now they've driven all over the course, and there's, you know, tracks from them driving all over. Or there's guys on holes I want to shoot. So I'm always coordinating with the superintendents, and being, you know, considerate of their work. So we work together very closely. For instance, like say on Tuesday, I go shoot and I get done Tuesday night. You know, if I go back, like I just came back from last week. I get back to my hotel, I call the superintendent and I say, here's what I'm thinking for the morning. You know, last week was great because the course wasn't too busy and they didn't have anybody teeing off. So I just would say to him, okay, here's the holes I think I want to shoot in the morning. Right. There's, you know, like a handful, like 6. And he'll say, okay, great. So if there's time allowed, time allows, he'll have his guys go out and mow those holes, which he did. He had them go out and mow the hole, mow the fairway, mow the green, you know, make sure his guys are just, you know, if they're cutting the fairway, they're just staying in the fairway and not making tracks in the rough if they can. Or
because it really reflects on them as well, on what their work, you know, consists of. You know, if you got your members or ownership of the golf course, or even if it's state owned or it's, you know, city owned, they're looking at it. Why does it look this way? Who's in charge of the fairways or the greens or the water looking the way it does? So, you know, it's really important that communication sounds vital.
Yeah, it is. Or, you know, if they don't have time to mow, what they do is, you know, if there's a lot of dew and then sometimes that doesn't look good, they'll, you know, maybe run some water to knock off the dew.
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
if he has to get the greens done, that's okay. Well, here's the time I think I want to start shooting, and here's the holes I want to do. It's okay that he'll send his guys out there first, mow it, run some water to get rid of the tracks. And so there's a lot of back and forth and a lot of communicating that I have to do every day.
Well, people don't realize the detail that goes into photography, right?
Yeah.
We've had clients with my business, hire us to come out, and it might be say a house that's just been constructed, and there's plastic wrap on the door, and the pool doesn't have water in it, and it's like, well, we can't shoot this today.
So, yeah, exactly.
Right. So, and to get a finished product like what's available on your site, and what most golfers have seen your work, whether they know your name or not, they've probably seen your work online or in pro shops. But the level of detail that goes into accomplishing shots like this, it takes a lot of preparation.
Yeah. Well, I guess that brings me up to my next question, Evan. You've got an award-winning calendar. I don't know if you still do that. I remember the calendar. And how do you get to choose which pictures you're going to put in there? Because that must be tough as well, because you have all this work, and who do you want to really put on a pedestal and show their golf course? So what does that process look like?
Yeah, in fact, I just got done choosing the photos for the 2023 calendar.
Right.
Sometimes during the year there'll be a shot that I just know, okay, this one's going in the calendar, or this one, you just know. So, throughout the year, I got a folder for calendar photos, so I'll just throw it in the folder, right? And then there's some, I may have to go back from last year, but next year's calendar, most of the photos were taken last year or this year.
Yeah.
And there's most of them are pretty recent. So I try to have a nice mix from around the country or abroad, depending on where I've been or what I've featured before. I shoot a lot of courses in the Northeast, so I don't like to have an abundance of them, but there's always one or two.
Yeah. Spread it around a bit.
Yeah. So I just choose, courses I like, shots I like. This shoot I did last week in Tennessee at place called Richland Country Club. It's just this beautiful spot. I hadn't heard of it, but it's one of the nicer. It's one of the nicer courses in Nashville or in Tennessee. It was fabulous. Bill Bergen, golf course architect, just did a renovation there, and there was a shot I got of the 9th hole. I was like, I got to put this in the calendar.
Yeah. And it happens I would think it happens by coincidence, right? Because the lighting's just right. The weather, it might be dusk or dawn.
Yeah.
There might be just those colors in the sky that are just right.
And the right cloud formation and everything. There's so many variables.
Yeah. And it's also, and it was just beautiful. The light was great. And in addition, that hole it's a brand new hole. They actually flipped it. It used to go the other way, and they flipped it around to go back. It used to be the 1st or the 10th hole, and now they just flipped it around and made it 9th hole. So the green is where the tee used to be, and I just thought it was.
So how did the introduction of the drone improve your photography and your capabilities? Like it's pretty when you watch golf on TV now, and now that they have drone action on the broadcast, we see beautiful perspectives that were never available before. So tell us about that and how it impacted your business.
Well, it's been a game changer.
Yeah.
Previously you would use a bucket truck or a lift or a very big ladder.
Helicopters.
Yeah.
Helicopters if you could, but you're always limited with helicopters in certain areas. There's like shooting Pebble Beach with a helicopter, you couldn't go lower than 500 feet.
Right.
You couldn't fly a helicopter, in most places just over the trees.
Yeah.
And, I remember being on certain shoots, you have a lift or a bucket truck and, they could swing you out a certain amount. But I would have like, God, if I could get out over that lake and shoot over, this way, that would be really great. But you couldn't do it. Oh, God, helicopter,
Yeah.
So it's replaced a ladder, lift, helicopter. Although you can only go, you legally can't go higher than 400 feet.
That's right.
Not everybody, abides by that. So it's all of those in one, and then some. Because you can get to places and spots, whether it's 10 feet off the ground or 20, or you need to get behind the green, between these two trees, I could fly in behind the green, a green and between these two trees to get to a spot if I need to, or fly it a little high. So you can get to so many different spots and quickly.
Yeah. Hey, you can stand in one spot and fly around the whole course and shoot.
You could, yeah. I mean, unless you gotta maneuver it between trees or low, or because I shoot from all different heights. Whether it's 10 feet, 20, 50, 100. So you can make much more. You can be much more efficient with your time.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, Evan, one of the segments that we do on the show, and we like to have fun with this, is talk about funny or embarrassing golf stories. Now, it could be a playing story, or it could be a photography story, or maybe both. Anything come to mind when I say funny or embarrassing?
Funny or embarrassing? Well, I got a couple. How many do you want?
We're all ears. You're making us laugh. You can tell as many as you want.
So I'm playing in the U.S. I qualified for the U.S. Open in 1986 at Shinnecock. And,
great.
The year Ray Floyd won. And a couple of my buddies qualified as well. So we're going out, and I'm not sure what day it was. We're going out to play a practice round. We're on the first tee, and I think there was 3 or 4 of us. But anyway, one guy gets up, he hits. Next guy gets up, he hits. Third guy gets up, he hits, and I'm hitting last. And as I walk up to the tee to hit, Norman and Trevino walk up to the tee. Now that's the year Norman led every major going into the last round.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so they walk up pretty close behind us, like looking at us like, who are you guys? Get out of the way kind of thing.
Right.
And I'm teed up my ball, and here's these 2 guys standing behind me. They're giving you the golf lean on their clubs or their bags, or and they're just standing there. You could like, it's almost like you feel them breathing down your neck.
Yeah.
And my buddies are laughing. They are just laughing because they know it's like, this is my U.S. Open right now, right? So to get up and hit the ball where these guys are standing right behind you, like breathing down your neck. And my buddies over there laughing their asses off. That was I don't know if I thought it was funny at the moment.
That is funny. You know what? Thanks for sharing that. That's the year Lanny Watkins and I guess Chip Beck finished second.
Yeah.
And that was over at Shinnecock, and Shinnecock, being, for those who don't know, is in New York. It's a U.S. renowned golf course.
Oh yeah.
Hosted many events, both on the professional and the amateur side. But how about in photography? Anything happened? Any drone crashes or anything along those lines?
I was going to ask that.
There was a couple. Nothing that's really. But there was one incident in a helicopter in Ireland. So we were at Old Head, and the people at Old Head had a helicopter down there, and they were doing, I don't know, they were filming a commercial. And they said to me, they're going to go up early and shoot, but not for that long. Do you want to go up in the helicopter and take some photos afterwards?
Right.
And I said, yeah, absolutely. So at the time I was still shooting film, and I had a Hasselblad camera, and it had this back that would attach to it that you loaded the film on. And you would only get 10 or 12 shots per roll.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd have to put a new back on or load the back. So I think I had 3 or 4 backs, right? So you could just pop them off and pop them on. And I had showed my wife was with me, and I had showed her how to load these backs. So I said, okay, I'll be shooting. I'll take the back off. I'll give it to you. You take the film out and load it with new film, and then so we can keep going, right? So we're getting ready to take off, and you take the doors off the helicopter so I can just, and they strap us in, and
yeah,
and the pilot gives us a speech before he takes off. That rotor is going around at so many RPMs and blah, blah. He goes, you cannot let anything go out that window, because if it hits one of the rotors going that fast, blah, 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 and we're going down, right?
Great.
So
Uh-oh.
yeah. So now she's scared to death of and I have the camera with a strap around my neck, and so I'm not worried about that. So we take off, and I'm taking photos, and I'm giving her a back, and she's giving me backs, and but the film came in these like cellophane packages. So you had to take it out of this cellophane package, and then it was a little like rat thing around it that stopped the film from unwinding. So you take that, and she was, unwrap it, shove it in her pocket, unwrap it, shove it in her pocket. Well, her pockets were getting so full, she was afraid to put anything else in there because she didn't want it to fly out. She was afraid that one of these little wrappers would go out the window, out the door.
Right.
So she didn't know what to do with them. So she started eating them.
What? The cellophane?
Oh my God.
She started eating the wrappers from the film.
Okay. Right. Well, you got to feed your wife. You
She's
can't
still
do
here
that
to
her.
talk about it. So
Yeah. Sure, she wasn't hungry after that.
Yeah.
I said, I looked and I went, where'd the wrappers go?
Yeah, and those, loading, if we're old enough to remember loading film into a camera. And I remember, doing that with my dad or myself in high school or college, but it wasn't easy to load the film because you had to get it on the reel and then reel it up. And sometimes it gets stuck. And so it's not an easy process by any means. It's not just like your cell phone these days. Just pick one of these up and you could do all the adjustments. And that being the digital cameras today are very, very user friendly.
Well, the digital cameras have this wonderful feature called autofocus. So most people just use that.
There was no autofocus on this.
Yeah.
Because it had the film on the reel. Then you had to pull it across the back of the back, where the plate was, and then you had to, catch it on the other reel.
Yeah.
And wind it, make sure it was tight.
And be careful to remove it properly so you don't accidentally expose anything. And so.
And you don't know how your shots are going to come out because depending on the aperture and how much you're opening and closing the lens, and you'd have a light meter on some of those, right? There's a light meter inside that you could see use, but you're kind of winging it.
Oh yeah, it is. There's a lot of there was a lot of film shot, as one photographer said to me. He goes, "Film is cheap. Your time is not."
Yeah.
So fire away. And he would say, bracket, 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 meaning, okay, 2 stops, underexposed, 2 stops overexposed, and then shoot what you think is right.
Yeah.
Or I should say a quarter, anywhere between a quarter and a third stop above and a quarter and a third stop below.
Yeah.
Just cover yourself. And, hopefully get one in there that's good.
What kind of equipment are you using today in terms of drones and cameras, and especially what your payload is on that drone?
Yeah. So the drone is, it's actually right over there, Inspire 2.
Okay.
DJI Inspire 2.
Yeah.
And I use the X5S and the X7 cameras, both of them.
Okay.
I use the X5S for stills because I think the still photos on that are a little sharper than they are on the X7.
Mm-hmm.
Video, I think, is a little bit better on the X7. So I travel with, not always both of them, but if I have to do video, I'll travel with both of them. And I have various lenses. And one of the things I like about that drone is the interchangeable lenses.
Yeah.
wide, or I can go to a 50 millimeter, which gives me some compression. Yeah. So, and as far as a camera, my DSLR camera, I have a Fuji GFX 100.
Okay.
It's a 100 megapixel camera. So
yeah, the Inspire can handle pretty good winds. Correct, right?
Yeah. I've had it out at Old Head when it was howling.
Yeah.
yeah. A little challenging landing it, but
yeah, that's okay. Just crash it down into a green.
I've almost had to. I actually had to go find a dune or something, or a hill, to go behind the hill and land it because it was so windy. I couldn't, I was afraid of catching an edge and having it flip over.
Have you ever had one?
That's happened a couple times.
Have you ever had one run away on you?
Nope.
No. Yeah. No, that's good. Neither have I. But
never had one. I had a prop fly off on one.
Yeah. Oh, and it still landed fine.
No.
It
was actually, I was out in Arkansas at the Alotian Club, and this beautiful Tom Fazio, it's like they call it the Augusta of Arkansas. I've actually what Stevens, who used to be the chairman of Augusta, his son built the course.
Okay.
Jack Stevens' son. It was the second morning, and it was a big job. I had to shoot all 18 video and still. So it was, I was going to be there for 5 days. I take off, the prop flies off.
Yeah.
So my first takeoff in the morning, takeoff gets about 15, 20 feet in the air. The prop flies off. I didn't even know what happens, and the thing plunges right into the ground.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah.
At least no one got hurt.
That was a little scary.
Jeez. Yeah. That I flew mine into a bird bath once. So that took it right out of the air, but luckily it didn't do much damage.
So all these courses, Evan, have you been out to Augusta at all?
Yeah. Yes.
And what was that experience like? Maybe you could tell us what time of year that was, and how that experience was going there. There's a lot of red tape, we know, getting to that course and making things happen in any shape or form.
Yeah, it was for the Masters. I was hired by Golf Digest, because Golf Digest publishes the Masters Journal.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I don't know if they still do, but they used to hire a photographer. They have their staff photographers, but then they would hire a photographer to do like special assignments for them. And I had some friends who worked at Golf Digest who suggested me. So I went there, I think it was 6 years, 2005 to 2010. So you're there for the whole week, walking up and down those hills, and they're hills, serious hills there.
Oh, yeah.
And just, not so much capturing the action, although I did, but, I was kind of free to shoot a lot of stuff, and I would have some special assignments, take pictures of this event or that, or be in the first tee in Arnold Palmer's tee, stuff like that.
Great.
That was fun. And then I actually did go there once to shoot the course for Golf Magazine.
Yeah.
Right before the Masters.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Did you get to play?
I did, actually.
Wow.
My last year there, they have a raffle for the media. Writers, photographers, and TV people. And when you get there, you sign in, you put your name in a hat, basically, and they pick some, on Sunday, they pick out a number of people. I think 40 people get to play.
Yeah.
You get to, you get to go in, you get your little invitation. You get to drive up Magnolia Lane. You get to go in the champions locker room, change your, shoes, and have lunch.
Great.
Have lunch in the champion. Yeah, so it's nice. Then,
we had a guest named Johan Benson, who works for RDS Sports in Montreal, which is the French TSN, or the equivalent of ESPN in the US, and he got chosen. He went out and shot 3 under. And and he had the best experience of his life. So he told us all about that and what that felt like, being treated like a member and playing the course. Yeah. It's really a privilege, isn't it?
It is. And my first year I went, I was advised to bring my clubs, because they said, well, they told me they have this raffle and you could get chosen. So I went, year 1, nothing, year 2, nothing, year 3, nothing, year 4, nothing, year 5, nothing. And I was like, and I would look at the names on the list and I'm like, all right, this isn't a random draw, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure some of it was, but not all of it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I said, I probably need more seniority or something here to get chosen. And I was like, so my last year, I said, you know what? I'm not bringing my clubs.
Uh-oh.
Because I mean,
Murphy's Law.
Yeah.
yeah, of course. So I remember on Sunday, a buddy of mine was walking out of the media center and I'm walking in and he goes, congratulations. Like, for what? He goes, you're playing tomorrow. I went, I'm playing. Oh, crap. You think you'd be overjoyed to be playing it. And I go, oh,
yeah.
crap. So I actually had to go, I had to go rent clubs. I had to Monday morning, I had to go find like Nevada Bob's. I called around all the clubs, nothing, and they're all closed on Monday. So I went and rented some clubs. I bought a couple of wedges. I bought some golf shoes. I bought balls, a glove.
Yeah. Well, you got to do what you have to do.
Yeah.
And how did you end up playing?
Not bad. I shot one over.
Okay. Oh, that's very respectable.
Great.
Yeah. Very respectable.
But I guess you guys aren't playing from the back tees or playing from the members tees, I suppose.
Yeah, it was somewhere in between. A couple holes we snuck back.
Yeah, of course. You want to get that perspective and get that shot that you see on television all the time.
I was looking around because you never know who's watching you out there.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to break any rules. You'll never be invited back.
Right.
So if you're just joining us, we're talking to Evan Schiller, golf photographer. You can see his work on evanschillerphotography.com. You could also see his calendar and other work. Evan, where else can we see your work? Is there anywhere else that we could go, be it social media or any books that we could that you would suggest?
I don't know if any books. I did a book on golf courses in Hawaii, but that was like eons ago. I don't know. It's out of print, out of publishing. Print. Mm-hmm. I would say the best place is on my website or on social media, Instagram. I'm pretty active on Instagram. Evan Schiller Photography. You just type in Evan Schiller or Evan Schiller Photography, you find me. I post generally daily there.
Mm-hmm.
And, if I'm on a trip, I'll, post some stuff on my stories or whatever. And, I'm on I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn.
Oh, perfect. And everyone, you have about 800 or more prints available on your website, and just images, but you also have these metal frames that look beautiful.
Oh, yeah. There's there's two of them behind me right there.
Yeah, no, I was going to ask if that's the product there, because I'm definitely keen on getting something in the future.
Hey, Mike, maybe we could buy something and do a giveaway for our listeners. Maybe
that's
the calendar.
A great idea.
We'll get a calendar and we'll buy one off of Evan and we'll do a giveaway.
That's a great idea. Yeah. Definitely. But yeah, you've got a lot of great products. And how are those metal prints selling? Like it looks like a great keepsake.
Yeah. Actually, there's two types of metal prints. There's metal prints, but then there's a product they have called epic metal prints.
Yes.
And those two behind me are epic metal prints. And the process is a little bit different than a metal print. And actually, so metal print is it's not actually printed. It's what they do is they use this specially treated aluminum or metal it has special dyes in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they take a regular photograph and they with pressure, they push the metal against the regular heat and pressure. And so the dyes are infused into the metal.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not actually printed. It's actually in the metal, infused into the metal. With an epic metal print, it actually is a print. So there's a print on this paper, this high definition paper called Fujiflex archival paper. It almost looks like a piece of glass. Imagine a flexible piece of glass. They print it at 600 DPI. Most prints are made at 300 DPI.
That's right.
So this is twice. So the resolution is amazing. And then they mount it to a piece of metal, different metal than they use the regular metal prints.
Okay.
It's like a plaquing process, I suppose, right?
Yeah. The colors and the definition tend to be a little bit better than just the metal prints. I mean, they're both beautiful. The epic metal prints, the colors pop a little more, especially the greens. They're just a little more depth to them. When you look at it, it's just has this silky kind of look and feel to it. Yeah.
And I'm assuming they'll last a long time.
Yeah.
They're not going to fade.
They have a coating over them as well.
Yeah. That's great. They look really sharp.
Yeah.
Well, what a career, Evan. It's really, really amazing to have you on. We're thrilled to hear about your stories. This is a perspective that many of our viewers and listeners never get, because it's a unique opportunity to talk to somebody who's not only played the game, who's an instructor. I've been an instructor for over 22 years now. Mike is an avid player. Not only that, he's one of the top amateur players in BC. So, nice. And we're old playing buddies.
So settle down there. Some days I'm good. Some days I'm shit.
like all of us.
Yeah. But what a career. So thanks for joining us, Mike. Would you like to finish off by giving our viewers and listeners some thoughts?
Absolutely. You'll be able to find this show right away on YouTube if you're not watching it already. And as of tomorrow, it'll be up on all the podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit subscribe, like, share, follow, all of that. Any engagement would be appreciated. And no, that's great. And thanks again, Evan, for joining us. And
thank you for having me on. This is awesome. Thanks,
guys. Yeah. We'll send you the links to this if you don't mind a retweet or anything like that. It's much appreciated. And we'll definitely maybe grab a few calendars off you for some giveaways over the upcoming fall season here.
Awesome.
Thanks, amazing. Matt. So make sure you tune in, evanschillerphotography.com. For Evan Schiller, Michael Bleackley, I'm Rafael Kalamat, and you've been listening and watching the Golf Podcast Live. See you next week.
Okay, thanks, everybody.